Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. So we just got Kenobi episode 5, and I must say guys, for me this was the best episode of the show so far. It felt the most Star Warsy, and the way Deborah Chow's story is coming to a climax is done brilliantly. And as we're coming to the end of the show next week, I must say it's a very well written one. This episode demonstrated that. We got a lot of payoffs with a big tease at the end. So as always guys, I'm going to save my full review for the end of the video. So let's get straight to the breakdown. Right off the bat, we've got to talk about the Anakin and Obi-Wan flashbacks. We were taken right back to Coruscant on the same balcony as the first Order 66 flashback at the start of the show, but this sequence, as the leak stated, are in the Attack of the Clones era, not the Clone Wars. And I love the way we got to see Hayden and Ewan in the same hairstyles and outfits as episode 2. I don't even care that Hayden was not de-aged. Yes, he looked remarkably older, but I'm just so glad it's 2022 and we're getting Anakin and Obi-Wan scenes. Attack of the Clones was one of the first Star Wars movies I ever saw in the cinema, so the nostalgia was overwhelming, and it was also great that Hayden replicated his prequel voice. We were taken right back to 2002, I loved it. I think there are more flashbacks to come as well, and what's great about them is they're not just thrown in for fan service, they're clearly serving the story. The purpose of this one was that Anakin had an obsession with victory at any cost, something that carried over to an even greater extent as Darth Vader. Now something I loved in this episode, at least writing wise, is how they were able to develop multiple characters across 36 minutes. We learned a lot about Reva, Obi-Wan and Vader, and no attention was taken away from any of them. All three were focused on with equal balance, and it worked so well. Now speaking of Reva, not to gloat too much, but my theory from the other day came true to an absolute T. As predicted, her group was killed by Anakin during Order 66, and that's how she knows that Annie is Vader. Not only this, but also the fact that she was trying to kill him all along. In her eyes, he took everything from her, and she still keeps a grudge to this day. Earlier in the week when there was a rumour of a Reva show, I was really baffled and not particularly interested. I was thinking, why would Lucasfilm want to make a show all about her? But after this episode, I throw my hands up in the air and say, you know what? I'm really excited about the prospect. She was so well written in this one, and they actually gave us a reason to care about her character. That's what's really important. But I'm jumping the gun a bit. Let's slow things down. So Reva tells Vader that they've tracked Obi-Wan to the planet of Jabim. To everyone's surprise, at least at the start of the episode, Vader then declares Reva the Grand Inquisitor, although, let's be real, it's only for a few minutes. And I found it so hilarious that you get a button slapped on your chest if you're the Grand Inquisitor, like it's Girl Scouts. I'm still not over it, it's the funniest part for me. So anyway, on Jabim, Roken, whose full name is Cowlin Roken, tells Obi-Wan that before they can transport Leia back to Alderaan, they have to transport all of the families. But Vader locks down the facility, and this is when Obi-Wan really steps up to the plate. We see the hope in him again. He is Jedi Master Obi-Wan, not broken Obi-Wan anymore. He devises a smart plan to override the doors and seal every other entrance. It's Leia who comes to the rescue in the end though. Now, because we were on Jabim, going into the episode, we were all kind of hoping for some familiar Jedi appearances. And while none came, Obi-Wan sees some Jedi writings on the wall, a pile of lightsabers, and Jedi robes. This meaningful moment without any dialogue was a fantastic inclusion. As I said in my preview yesterday, it's going to take Obi-Wan seeing that there's still hope for the Jedi in order to advance his character development by the end of the season. And with one episode to go, we're truly seeing that transformation. He was epic in this one, and props to Ewan, he's made this show what it is. His acting is on point. So now guys, let's talk about when the third sister, now the Grand Inquisitor, arrives on Jabim. As I said, Obi-Wan works out that she knows Anakin is Vader and also realizes that she's trying to hunt him. After a confrontation with the stormtroopers, unfortunately, Tala Dorith dies, but not before wishing Obi-Wan, "May the Force be with you." It was an emotional ending to a pretty well-written character who honestly had so much potential in this show and beyond. Indira Varma did a great job, a noble death and a noble sacrifice. When our heroes are out the other end, Kenobi decides to face Vader himself, realizing there are other ways to fight apart from using his weapons, so he hands them to Haja, who by the way made it to Jabim. Obi-Wan turns himself in and plays on Reva's psychology, and she now believes that when Vader arrives, that's her opportunity to kill him, and so she tries, but the one thing she doesn't realize is how intuitive and intelligent Vader really is. And he reveals he knew all along that she was a youngling from the group at the Jedi Temple during the night of Order 66. And just to pause a minute, the sequences with Vader on Jabim are incredible, and I'm so glad we got to see him at full strength. This is Vader comics level, something that could have been ripped right out of those pages, when he brings the transport down and strips away the metal doors with no problem, even though it's the wrong one, was fierce and intense. This is the Vader we've all wanted to see, and I should also say his voice in this one was so much better. I don't know if they synthesized it, but James Earl Jones, who was involved in this show, sounds just like he did in the original trilogy. So when Reva tries to strike Vader, he easily blocks her and goes on to toy with her, humiliating her in the process. She never had a bloody chance. One thing that was cool to see was her use both ends of the lightsaber, and the spinning motion was reminiscent of Rebels. All we needed was some flying action, or as I like to call it, the Mary Poppins maneuver. I'm just kidding, but Vader snaps the saber in two and even gives her a chance by tossing her the other half. He knows she is defeated. And so, she is stabbed in the abdomen. Reva of course survives, but the Grand Inquisitor, the real Grand Inquisitor, appears. He mocks her, tells her they're gonna leave her in the gutter again, and talks about how sweet revenge is. And also he gets his little badge back, again with the f***ing button. And to be honest, Reva surviving actually makes me really interested about where her story goes from here. The most important thing she learns is from Obi-Wan's hologram device. Even though Bail Organa's message is choppy, we heard it in full earlier in the episode, and he mentions Tatooine and Obi-Wan's task of protecting Luke. So where do we go from here? Well, in my opinion, there are a couple of ways. Either Reva is going to use this intel as a bargaining chip to be accepted back into Vader's ranks, or she will go to Tatooine herself, this time using Luke as bait for Obi-Wan to arrive on Tatooine. Because she realizes she can't kill Vader, she might want to kill Obi-Wan herself and take the satisfaction away from Vader. Either way, Obi-Wan sensed this disturbance in the Force from Roken's transport, and in the end, we see the last homestead, and Luke is fast asleep. Luke is the one asset Obi-Wan had a duty to protect. He needs to go back there. What a brilliant cliffhanger. So for me guys, this episode is easily a 10 out of 10. This is the quality of a Star Wars TV show that we all expect as fans, and I really can't fault it. It was fun, had a lot of meaningful story expansion, character insight, and did its job as the penultimate episode to build to a huge climactic end next week. Because now you really have three parties, Obi-Wan and his allies, Vader and the Empire, and Reva, whose motives will be the most interesting going forward. My only hope for next week is that the final episode is a long one, so they can do justice to completing the season in a way that ties up some loose ends. But if not, it doesn't matter because season 2 is rumoured to be in the works. So those are my thoughts guys. What did you make of episode 5? Let me know in the comments down below. This for me was the best one so far. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new, because later in the week I will be making more videos breaking down some more intricate details from the episode, so look out for those. But until the next one my dear friends, may the Force be with you always. I'm Star Wars Meg. Have a good one.